All right, welcome back to another episode of the No Lift podcast with myself, Arthur Lynch. And for this episode, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by City Gym Limerick coaches Stephen Cusack and Jack Thornton.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Good now.
Yeah, good Ed. How you get on?
Yeah, good, good. I have less hair than when you last saw me.
You got
Yeah, I
like
noticed that
a
actually.
Ben Rice kind of look with the hat.
Huh?
You got a kind of Ben Rice looking look going on there now with the hat.
Well, the hat is actually more so just to cover up a bad hair day because your hair gets to the stage where no matter how much sort of mashing you do of it, you can't get it to stay down. That's
Yeah,
I'm having one of those days, so the hat is just to cover for that.
yeah. I haven't got a haircut since all of this went down, and it's got to the stage now where, yeah, like I can't even get my hair to stand up because it's just so fucking long that it just ends up looking. I just look like an emo, irrelevant of how I do this.
Yeah, yours is probably long enough to keep it held down. Mine's just a little bit short,
Yeah,
so it's just like that, like that alfalfa hair,
yeah,
like
yeah,
back kind of thing.
yeah.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. So what's going on with you guys? How's lockdown treating you?
Yeah, like adjusting to it now, I suppose. Like training's going fine. Most people that I'm coaching are getting back into a rhythm with training, or are some way gone back towards that. Yeah, and then I suppose just trying to make use of all of the free time. There's a sort of web conference going on this weekend. I don't know if you've seen it, the online. I think it's like the online human performance summit or something, but it's got a really good lineup of speakers, like Mike Israel and Pat Davidson and people. So just looking forward to doing a few things like that. Time. That's about it.
Yeah, I found training was an interesting thing to get used to. I live in an apartment, so training in your living room is a big change of pace for it's just a big change of pace compared to what we have in City Gym. But yeah, like it's been steadily going. Similar to what Steve was saying, of just making use of time. Like if I found myself just listening to a lot of podcasts like this, just to pass times because I found I can do little bits of like work around the house while still trying to take in some information about like different topics. But yeah, that's really it. I haven't been up to much.
Very good. And as coaches, how have you guys adapted to, the clients that you're working with not having ideal conditions to train in? Like, do most of your clients have some kind of gym set up at home, or are you having to prescribe like body weight only workouts at the moment?
Yeah, like most people, in fairness, have some sort of a setup at home now, irrelevant of how much they actually have. Most people have some access to weights. So I'm actually all right in that regard. And then, for some of the people that don't necessarily have equipment, yeah, it's just trying to work around what they can and what they want to do. Because, it's hard to get, it's hard to validate someone doing like body weight sessions and putting in the time when they're quite demotivated right now. Because it's not going to have a massive transference over. So if someone just wants to take a break and maybe focus on just going on walks and doing things they enjoy, as long as it's sort of exercise, then I'm happy enough.
Yeah, a decent percentage of mine we're lucky enough to either already have kit like a power rack, bench, and plates and stuff, or they got it just before lockdown, because that's one of the biggest things. Just like even if you have the money now, you're not able to buy most of the kit.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, a lot of mine were lucky enough to get that. I think I only have like a low percentage that don't. But the ones that do, like the only workarounds, like you can still squat, bench, and deadlift, but then the only workarounds for them is just, finding some accessories finding some accessory movement that incorporate a barbell as opposed to like the usual machines they might use or dumbbells and stuff.
Yeah.
That's been fun just to think a little bit differently about accessory work. And then the ones that don't have kit, just finding ways of training, like shifting goals, like just trying to get people good at bodyweight exercises like pull-ups and ab wheel rollouts, and getting strict with dead bugs and stuff has been useful. Like I've had some PTs that do some personal training as well. So I've had some PTs that have shifted from more strength training to kind of cardio based training. So like this taking us time to kind of research that a little bit more has been fun. Just that all the coaching I have been doing isn't just strength training now, which is, it's a bit of fun. Like,
Very good. And some of those accessories that you alluded to, like what would they, are you talking like rows, single leg work, like overhead presses, those kind of things?
Yeah, a lot of them. It depends. Again, it depends what they kind of have access to and like what their gym setup is, depending like if they have a combo rack or if they have a power rack. But yeah, things like rows, like one arm like landmine rows and kind of landmine variations as well. And then other things that I've just seen online that have been worth like looking into. Like I saw Bryce Lewis the other day post about how he does. Have you ever seen his rack chin-ups? Where it's basically just a pull-up at a slightly different angle. It's like at a more 45-degree angle, and he loads it by putting plates on his legs, and his legs are supported on a bench. Just stuff like that, different variations to just break up some training monotony as well. Have been fun to play around with. That's it for the most part.
That's cool. So, lads, for any listeners that maybe aren't terribly familiar with you guys and your background and that, could you give an introduction to who you guys are, your background in powerlifting, and how you got to where you are today? Maybe starting with Stephen.
So I suppose, I'm a powerlifting coach from City Gym Limerick. I literally started, I've been with City Gym Limerick since I started powerlifting. Sort of did my internship, or whichever you'd call it, in City Gym. And I started in 2016, I think it was. Yeah, it was 2016. And I've just been working there since. And have been lucky enough to sort of have the opportunity to coach with the Irish team in the IPF as well. And I suppose that's about it for me as a coach.
Cool.
Mine
And Jack?
is, a lot of mine is the exact same as Steve's, just a year later, a year or two later. Just tack on a year later. And that's kind of it. Like lifting wise, like I was lifting with City Gym a little bit before I was coaching. I had a couple of meets done. And then just have been doing the two consistently for the last while. Got to go to my first international comp as a coach there in November. It was November, wasn't it? To Lithuania for Euros. So that was just an unbelievable experience. Just seeing how the big show goes. That's basically it. That's how it all started.
So to take you back a little bit before that, what would you say kind of got you into powerlifting? Not even necessarily coaching, but just got your foot in the door of the sport.
So like, I suppose I got into like just regular strength training or training in a gym when I was in like transition year of school. And yeah, it was sort of in that vacuum after I'd stopped playing competitive sports. So I'd sort of stopped boxing and hurling and Gaelic football at that point. So I didn't really have much to do. I was a bit rudderless. So I started going to the gym and I was looking for something competitive to do. Literally found nothing to do with powerlifting. So instantly decided I was going to be a bodybuilder. Then realized I don't have the discipline. I don't want to do bodybuilding, and blatantly, I just wasn't really interested in the drug culture in it at the time. I was only like 16, so I transition. I wanted to learn basically how to get my deadlift up, so I was put in contact with you and started doing personal training with Arthur inside City Gym, and just like slowly developed my interest from there, just being surrounded by the environment, which was sort of how I got into powerlifting. It was basically just luck in being referred on to you.
I had mine was started training super young, like always played sports. But started going to the gym because I thought I was like fat at 75 kilos, which is fucking gas to think of now. Started training for years with my friends, really poorly. I was told to start, and to get a coach. Got a coach for a while in UL, and then then started training in City Gym. I think like my first introduction to powerlifting though was through YouTube, like watching like Johnny Candido's videos and watching a lot of Mark Bell stuff, who, you know, with this whole COVID-19 thing seems to be a fucking clown now, like. But watching Johnny Candido's videos, who is still watching a few Ben Rice videos. I guess seeing them do it, I was like, that seems like something that's a bit of fun. It's a bit of crack. And then shortly after that, joined City Gym, and just because I wanted to do I decided at that point in UL I wanted to do a powerlifting meet, and I kind of figured I'd be better off joining a team, so I'd at least have people to ask questions about the simple stuff of like how a meet's run, what are the rules, get the basis behind me first before going in, because obviously when I was starting out there wasn't as many podcasts and there wasn't as much information about like tips for your first powerlifting meet, because obviously rules change from federation to federation, so I just kind of wanted to have the information from a team, just so that would eliminate some elements of the unknown going into your first comp. But that was a big factor for me starting out.
Cool. So I guess that's what I kind of want to get at from this conversation is, I suppose, to explore and sort of discuss your coaching styles and philosophies. And we chatted a little bit just before we started recording about how you might differ in certain things. And I think that would be interesting to delve into, and just generally get an idea of how you do things. So let's say I'm a prospective client that has heard that you're a good coach and I want to come to you for some coaching. At the beginning of the process, what are some of the questions you'd be asking a new client before you start setting up a coaching process, before you start putting pen to paper on any programs or anything like that? What are some of the key things you want to know about an individual?
I suppose, before I start, the main thing that I want to figure out is, why does someone want to start coaching, or why are they looking to sort of work with me? Because at the end of the day, with powerlifting and with powerlifting coaching, it's a service. You're giving your lifter a service, so you got to figure out what they want, because that's what you're working towards. So finding out what goals it is, whether it's competitive goals, whether it's just broader strength training, the likes, figuring out that, and then working back from where they are right now in terms of their training, their current training, what sort of a state they're coming into it in terms of injuries or the likes, and working from there.
Yes, I'd say similar. Like goals is always the first thing is one of the first things I'll typically ask, just to get a picture of like what they regard as a successful athlete coach relationship. Like if in a month or two, what will they feel like? Okay, I got decent results. I'm going in the right direction at least. And then after that, I'll just from the kind of programming and all that kind of side, I'll ask them like, can I see your latest program, or can I ask them what kind of training they have been doing up to this date? Whether it's like a lot of people will come to you saying, here, I ran this 6-week program or this 8-week program I found online. So I'll have a look through that and then make the introductory program a kind of springboard off of that. And then kind of take it from there. If obviously, like the obvious things, like if they have previous lifting videos or like top sets from the more recent times, I'll have a look through that as well, to see if there's any weaknesses I'd like to correct, because I kind of like prescribing some of the assistance work based off of where I'd see weak points, I guess. But that's how I'd start off most people anyway.
Cool. And so you touched on like weak points there now. So how would be like, would you be able to identify some of those, or at least have a good stab at what they are before you start coaching them? Or would it be after a while you'd start to identify patterns and be like, oh, okay, so you have, say, chest fall on your squat, so we'll plug in this assistance exercise and see how we get on there? Or how would that kind of work for you guys?
For me anyway, like, it's for all this coaching is they're basically paying for me. They're basically paying, like if they're asking me to coach them, they're asking me to make my absolute best guess I can at something, and that's what it is. It's like I can't say looking at anything that this is objectively the case, that okay, this accessory work will correct your, say if you're slow off the floor on a deadlift, this will make it better. But I just try and prescribe things based off of what I see, if I think that this could help. But yeah, for I have my go-tos for certain weak points I see, and I'll kind of program accordingly, in addition to just trying to cue the person differently as well. As funny as it sounds, just telling someone, telling people to highlight an issue that's happening, say with a squat, like a chest fall pattern, making someone aware of it can help. Doesn't always help, but it can help. And is probably where I'd start off. Just simplest solution first, and then you can make it more complicated with time.
So anything to add on that, Stephen?
Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, again, it's like, lost my train of thought. Yeah, like say with like things like highlighting weak points and the likes. Like everyone's sort of needs are going to be reasonably individual, but also we perform the same 3 lifts, and we train very similarly. So a lot of times, like movement, like issues that happen are going to be sort of recurring. They come from the same cause in most cases, so they're probably going to have very similar solutions. So just the intent, I suppose, behind the exercise is probably going to be one of the biggest fixes for people. When people have issues, you don't necessarily, like the whole concept of corrective exercises is like, I just find it a bit interesting, because you don't necessarily have exercises that are like blanketly corrective. If you, like, let's say you have a chest fall pattern and you people say like, right, safety bar squats are going to be sort of a corrective exercise or remedy that, or like pin squats or, whichever the go-tos in that area. But if you hammer home a chest fall pattern in those exercises, you're exaggerating said patterns. So like, I suppose like technical cueing and trying to get that message across is probably the big thing. And it's something that, like, as I've been in the game longer and as I've seen more people, I've probably put more weight towards, because your ideas behind coaching are probably always going to be up for they should always be evolving, and people think that what you do should be set, and it definitely shouldn't, because if you're not improving as time goes, what are you're getting left behind. And like, probably when I started coaching, I used to have very broad, like, blanket ways that I wanted people to lift, which just changed more as I've went along. And it probably, the pendulum shifted too far to the other side for a while, where as long as someone was lifting in a sort of a safe, pain-free way, and was continuing to progress, I didn't pay too much attention to technique. Whereas, like, in practice, you really see that sort of the more cueing you can give someone, and the more like sort of feedback you can give them in that way, is probably going to be much more effective towards improving those movement patterns than any, like, say, specific exercises or movement patterns you could train, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it does, but sorry to put you on the spot here now, but could you give an example of how that pendulum has swung one way to the other?
Yeah, so I suppose, let's say if I was to, like, break down a certain lift, like, let's say you have a squat. Like, when we first started coaching, I have very, like, sort of specific ways you want everyone to lift, because you have this idea of what, like, the best way of squatting is, right? So you want everyone to lift that way, because you feel like this is going to be the most efficient way of moving the bar A to B, which probably shifted, I think, the focus shifted far too much towards just letting people move however they move, so long as it wasn't causing pain or discomfort and they were moving in to comp spec. Whereas there is a middle ground between both of those 2 points, which is, I think, where most of your best progress is going to be, and where you're going to get the best, like, correction of movement quality, rather than focusing on specific, like, movements or warm-ups or, like, assistance exercises, with the focus being sort of thinking that they're going to be a holy grail towards improving movement.
Very good. Okay, so at this point now, we've the new client has come to you. We've established what they were doing beforehand, previous injury history, all that kind of stuff. So we have gathered what we feel is enough information to kind of make a start. What's kind of the next stage then? So, I mean, how do you go about making people stronger?
So, yeah, like,
doesn't have to be the specifics of it, but generally speaking,
yeah.
What would be the things that would characterize how you would train people?
I suppose when I start training someone, normally you're looking at their previous training program, right? And you don't want to make it I don't want to make it too dissimilar to what they were initially doing in terms of, like, the workload and the amount that they were doing there, because it was actually sort of one of the first things that you said to me when I started coaching, and when I started sort of doing, like, work experience with you, was you told me, like, the number one thing is just to do no harm. So you try to stay, like, reasonably close to what they're already doing, and adjust it from there towards what you would see as a more effective way for them to progress in their own training. So, like, I suppose for most people, you're probably looking at, like, the days of people doing super non-specific training are probably gone. And a lot of people, when they come to you from, like, just a broad training, like a strength training background, or maybe, like, online templates, one of the first things we'll be doing to them is increasing the frequency at which they're doing their competition lifts, because that's typically the thing that's lagging. And then from there, just as you get more feedback from them, in terms of, like, assistance exercises that will help them sort of building muscle and strength, and just in terms of, like, the workloads they're able to handle, it starts to form into the structure that they'll be following.
Cool. And Jack,
Fine.
would you be kind of similar, or would there be anything that you'd differ on there?
Yeah, I think in a broad sense, very similar. They're like very similar. Like it'd be very rare. I wouldn't increase frequency for someone in particular with the upper body stuff. It's rare enough that people are benching more than, when they come to me, that they're benching more than twice a week or 3 times a week. So oftentimes I'll bring it up to 3, 4, 5 times a week, depending on the person. But that would happen gradually over time. And yeah, like there isn't, like depending on, looking at the previous program, as Steve said, is more due to looking at the things I'm interested in. That is more looking at the frequency of they're doing, the say a number of heavy sets they might be doing a week in each movement. That's more what I'm looking at rather than say certain exercises they're doing. I don't overly pay much heed to that because like usually I start off programs fairly simple with very few variations and sticking more to the comp lifts because I know very little about the person at the time, and then it may get more complicated in time, but certainly starting out it'll be very simple linear periodization at the start and progress to something else if I think that's valuable to them.
Very good. So the frequency thing that you touched on there now. So you were saying kind of like you could have someone bench pressing up to 3, 4, or even 5 times a week. What would that look like then for squat and deadlift? Would that be similar, or would the frequency be a lot lower?
Like maybe twice a week each. Maybe higher on squat 3 times a week. Like that can vary depending on the person. I know it's I found people like, so I have some people who are like say fairly efficient at deadlifting. Just their range of motion is short, so they don't get beat up too much. They might be up on deadlifting 3 days a week. Yeah, it just depends the person and what they're able to recover from. But for most people, I'll have them start off with 2 of each a week. It seems to be more like deadlifting twice and squatting twice. It seems most people seem to be able to recover from that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like typically it's just a case of like trying to start at a level, as Jack was saying, that they can recover from, because additional work beyond that doesn't necessarily give us any advantage. And a lot of times it can be sort of almost like the term is quite vague, but like sort of dependent on the lifter's skill level or level within lifting, because typically as people sort of progress further along their careers, I've found, and as people get up to sort of quite high levels of strength, like the frequencies at which they are handling certain weights will probably have to reduce. When you have someone at sort of a newer level, normally they're able to push quite a lot of training fatigue year round or session to session, because it doesn't have a huge implication on what they're doing the next day or the day after that. Mm-hmm. So you could probably afford to push that exertion. Whereas like as people start to progress, more sessions, probably you have to have sessions that are accounting for each other. There has to be more of a consideration of, right, this session is probably going to be more of a skill-based session focused on recovery, if you're going to be having other sessions that are quite overloading beyond that. Like probably an example of that I know wouldn't mind me talking about it because you just had him on would be Jesse Moran, who I took on last year. And like when I took on Jesse, like you're sort of in this catch-22 situation where it's like, right, Jesse's got to such a high level of strength where there's a whole lot of things that could go wrong in programming for this guy, but there's not a whole pile of things that could probably go right. So when a guy has got to a 900 kilo total at 100 kilos body weight, you're probably looking to stay pretty close to what he's done, because that has been working okay. Like, that has definitely done something for him. So you don't want to change the whole pile from that. So with Jesse, the main thing we're looking at was, as he was talking about with changing to the ab series, was increasing his quality of game day performances, because he was typically losing kilos when it actually came down to the spec of his lifts, missing attempts. And when you're sort of operating at those sort of weights, one missed lift could be sort of 15, 20 kilos gone off your total. So the main things you're looking to do are modify his programming around to maximize the strength that he already has, and work from there once he adjusted to the new standard of lifting, because that would be quite fatiguing too. Squatting to a lower depth consistently in training is going to elicit more training fatigue. So with guys at that level, when you're changing those sort of technical things with people who come to you, again, if that's the thing that's sort of going to provide the best improvements, I'll tend to keep everything else reasonably standard. The actual program is going to stay reasonably similar, because we want to be controlling other variables in his training.
Cool, makes sense. So how would the approach differ for, say, a junior lifter who's obviously younger, less kind of life baggage and general stress, and lower training age, versus a more seasoned open lifter or even a masters lifter?
Depending on where they're coming from. If you're saying say in City Gym, there's loads of sub juniors and juniors, say for the sub junior lifters who have basically no training age, if maybe a year or 6 months, it is just, they just need to be coached heavily, cued a lot, and actually they actually need to learn how to lift at the start. Whereas how and yeah, as Steve was saying, a decent percentage of their work will be kind of skill based. Progressing at that point, how fast they can progress, you almost have to put some bit of reins on them, so that they lift for longevity, as opposed to just lifting in the moment. And okay, they'll get to a 200 kilo squat, but it'll be with shit technique. It won't be comp spec, and they're much more likely to injure themselves in a year and quit the sport. Just showing putting a bit of brakes in them can keep them going for longer. Whereas how with more seasoned lifters, depending where, it's hard to talk about seasoned lifters, because they can kind of come at you from any angle, as far as they can be just as mad as you need to put brakes on them as well. But I don't know what to say about seasoned lifters, to be honest.
Right. And sorry to go across to Stephen, but just on that last point, is that a case of having a few harsh words with them, or do you have to kind of just sit down and just have a more level-headed, reasoned conversation with them?
Depends who you're talking to. Because at the end of the day, people aren't you're someone's coach, and having a positive relationship with your lifters is definitely a great thing, right? But people aren't paying you to be their friend, they're paying you to make progress. So sometimes that can mean having uncomfortable conversations, but it mightn't necessarily be what you lead with. It's definitely something that most people don't need. So having those discussions, just in a way that gets across to people, can be quite useful. When you know what someone's in the game for, it can be quite helpful, because much more process driven or process motivated people can be quite a lot easier to rein in terms of, it can be if you're only worried about the process and getting as strong as you can, it can be a lot easier to translate across how something they're doing can be counterintuitive right now, than someone who's necessarily just focused on the end goal. But again, it just depends who you're talking to, I think.
Anything to add on that, Jack?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it just depends the person. Yeah, the uncomfortable conversations. Yeah, I do agree that knowing the person's goals in mind certainly helps with that, because it is easy. It really helps your case when you're trying to get them to say like adhere to a program or to lift us if you to listen to you if what they're doing right in the moment isn't lining up with their goals, their long-term goals. It is your smoking gun in that conversation.
Okay, so something we spoke about earlier on, just before we started recording, was about maybe one of the things that would differ with the coaching setup with you guys versus some other well-known and very reputable coaching services would be the effort that you put into managing your lifters through meet day handling. And I suppose a lot of that as well is you can actually attend a lot of the meets as well, even if they are, like you were talking about earlier on, you've been to international competitions as well, so you've been able to attend them. But like outside of that, how do you go about doing that? How do you ensure that the lifters are well looked after on the day of the meet?
Yeah, because those it probably again that is case dependent on where the meets are, because if you have lifters who are going to meets, like let's say that we're not going to will be going to most meets domestically, but it's just a case of trying to lay out an effective plan for them. And I think it's something that's quite good across the board in Ireland in general, you see, is like the quality of meet day handling, and it's really rising. Someone that has been a massive influence on me anyway personally is Jay Farron from ABS, in terms of the amount he's taught me about meet day handling. And in Ireland that culture is pretty open, so the quality of attempt selection here is very high, which is one of the biggest things, is just being able to interpret training data in a way that leads to effective attempt selection on meet day, which is probably going to be your biggest thing. When you see a lot of people who get left down in meet day performances, it tends to come from just not interpreting training data in a way that allows for accurate meet day calls. And then in terms of like actually helping people on meet day, yeah, it can just be really handy for people to be part of a club if they're competing domestically, because you're going to have a team of people around you to sort of handle you on meet day, with regards to, helping you with warm-ups, helping you with attempt selection, just helping you learn about the running of the meet. Like as Jack was saying when he sort of was talking about starting training, it can be the difference for people, particularly when they're beginners, from sort of being left stranded at a meet, and having a very positive experience is having a handler there who just who knows their runabout.
Sorry, I thought you were going to add something to that, Jack.
Oh no, it's just breathing. I will though. I will though.
Go for it.
Yeah. No, I think I think just the meet the handling part of it is like hugely important, and like I think myself and Steve put a huge amount of effort into it, including the other coaches in Stadium. Alex, who's been doing really well with his few lads, and Jack Kenny as well, who's now in Australia, who can, RIP. But just having a team like that, having and no one is too big for none of the coaches are too big for their boots. With the kind of handling we're doing as well, as far as typically, say if Steve or Alex have people, one of the two of us, or if another coach doesn't have people, will be just in the back room loading bars and making things go a little bit easier. Keeping an eye on warm ups, keeping track of things like a kit bag that we might have brought, that it'll just have the simple stuff like chalk, talc, food, jellies, water, like keeping an eye on smaller things really helps. And then just approaching the meet day thing as a it's a single person sport, but treating it as a team like this. The team of coaches is going to try and, you know, make this as seamless for the lifter as possible. And like I experienced that as well when like I do meets like once a year, twice a year maybe. But in my experience with those, it's been very much that the most recent one I did was the SummerSlam, and that was a bit of a clusterfuck as far as like the warm up room and stuff. But you know, the actual team of like coaches I had around me, like I didn't really have to do anything. I just said like, okay, I warm up in plates, just let me, and this is my last warm up. And then I was out on the platform. It was fairly straightforward. I never had to go look for anything. Like that's huge. That's huge even mentally for me. Like it definitely kept me fresher for the day and like allowed me just to focus on lifting.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, as a competitive powerlifter, your game day is a meet. You know, that's what you train for. And having people with experience there and people who sort of like are bothered about it and care as well makes a huge difference, you know, in terms of the experience you're going to have. You know, I think it is quite an overlooked thing in terms of, you know, a lot of people put so much effort into their whole training block and the training cycles and everything, and then the meet day is almost sort of an afterthought, which can really sort of undermine all the efforts you've put in, particularly if you identify as a competitive powerlifter. You know, it should really be something you're doubling down on and maximizing, you know, because a lot of the efforts you put in can be undone in 30 seconds if you're not paying attention or you're not adequately prepared on the day of a competition. And as the standard of powerlifting is increasing in Ireland, you're like continually seeing the standard of meet day performances and preparation improving as well. You know, like obviously, Aaron, you've been at it far longer than either of us, but even I remember like when I was starting powerlifting, like in 2016, the first couple of meets, like everyone used to go in, nobody really had handlers. You'd all sort of just half call each other's attempts and you know, just have a bit of a laugh. Everyone would figure out what the commands were on the day of a competition, or like, you know, you'd figure out things like you have to put your heels down after everyone gets red lighted on their opener on bench, and you sort of figured it out as you went. Whereas now people are going in super prepared. You're seeing everyone coming in with their kit bags and like with their attempts pre-laid out, not just getting an opener and trying to see what's there afterwards. You know, it's like it's becoming quite it's becoming quite methodical, which is nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. No, I can definitely I know exactly what you're talking about there. Just like, yeah, we just no concept of like strategy. It was just like, just go in and lift, and you know, if it's going well, we'll fucking jump 20 kilos instead of jumping 10. And you know, there's not much awareness of who's going on around you. And
I think the IPF should, or someone should make a meet that is just that you're not allowed to have a handler, and you can only, all the boys in the back room call your attempts.
Yeah.
Or like you have to go back, discuss with three of the fellas who are also competing, and then you put in your attempt. You have to get your attempt in within 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, and you can only go up in multiples of 10.
Yeah, only 10. Better open light, or you better have a big bench.
So this stage, lads, so I'm going to get you to kind of draw on your own past experiences here and offer any advice you would have for up and coming or even current powerlifting coaches, things that you did well or maybe not so well that you'd like others to know about, so that they can I suppose adjust their practice accordingly.
I suppose the number one thing that I'd probably recommend to younger coaches or newer coaches is to seek out established coaches and reach out to them and either try to work under them for a little bit or just see what they do, because that is where you're going to get your experience, and that is where you're going to learn. You sort of like you can often sort of see a culture, particularly I think with social media, where you know everyone thinks they have it figured out. From the second they get into it, we all think we have it figured out. You can see that, and like you have to have conviction behind what you do, definitely. But like the people who are more established are there for a reason, and figuring out what they do and seeing what they do not only builds your professional network, which will help you down the line, it'll also just it'll you it'll help you not make some of the mistakes they made, or not make some mistakes on things that weren't apparent or obvious to you when you began. So that would probably be the number one thing I'd say, is just try and reach out to other coaches, rather than try and figure it all out as you go along.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Hard to follow up that one. Just, I suppose, for new coaches on the programming side, like once you've done that, got your tutoring done, when you're going through someone's program, to go through each program as critically as possible and try and figure out what stuff, like if you've put something in a program, have a reason for it, and if you can't, take it out. If like putting in like assistance work, say like say hypothetically, if you're putting in a pause squat or a pin squat or a safety squat bar, what is the reason for it? If there is no reason, just change it back to a calm squat. Just try to approach programs in that kind of way, that you can defend every decision you've made in that program. It's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, like there's definitely a difference between like everyone wants the popular train of thought at the minute is that like most people should be following individualized programs. You know, that's where a lot of people are going, but there's definitely a difference between individualized programs and randomized programs. You know, if you're just slotting things in because it sounded cool, which is what you tend to see a lot of, you know, people are just doing random shit. It's like that's not individualized, you know, that was completely random. Individualized things actually have to suit the individual in question. Like whether or not like everyone follows some system of programming, you know, you have some train of thought that governs what you do, and that's your system, you know. Some people just tend to have it more organized than other people. And yeah, having something that you can defend, as Jack says, something that makes sense, something that works, is going to be really important.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be that you know verbatim that this will work. It's something, even if it is a bit of an experiment, like if it's something that you haven't trialed with this person yet, like, you know, like something I've been doing, there's something that my coach put into my program is like slingshot bench. I've never done that. I've never done that before. And we've no kind of indication of like, oh, whether this will go well or not. But if it's an isolated kind of trial run, then it makes sense. Do you know, like if most variables are the same and you're just trialing this as the new kind of stimulus, then it makes sense. But if you just
literally everything at once and decide that it was definitively this one thing,
and if you do that every block, then it doesn't make sense.
But just having a sort of coherent and consistent way of training that doesn't break people is going to be probably the best thing you can do at the start. It's really easy to try and push people as hard as physically possible and aim for that maximum recoverable volume with everyone and hope that, you know, you're going to make some absolute superstars, but you're probably better off just training in a way that's sort of attainable and that will produce progress for people. And as you start to see the individuals who will respond better to higher stress, and you can start adding that to what they do.
And like the superstars you think of as well probably aren't doing like as crazy training as you think they're doing.
No.
I'm sure like Jesse is one of the best lifters in Ireland. I'm sure it's not anything like absolutely wild. Like frequency wise and volume wise, like his workload isn't going to be an enormous amount higher than anyone else's.
No, it's like with Jesse, it's actually weird because like relative loads he follows and frequencies are so fucking low
Mm.
in many aspects. Like he just trains really consistently and is very diligent with the work he does. It's not down to any magical training template or style. Like it's going to be the same with most. Well, no, it's going to be the same with everyone. It's like mainly just following a training program that like sort of is structured well enough that they're going to see progress on it, and then it's something that they're able to stay consistent on and work on year round.
Yeah, so there's a lot that you said in the last few minutes, both of you, that I kind of want to explore a little bit further. But I suppose the biggest theme being like having a rationale for what you're doing, and if there's something on a program, that the client sees, and they query it with you, you should be able to explain why it's there. And something you said, and it was kind of only in passing, like it's probably months ago now, Stephen, but it really, really resonated with me and really got me thinking afterwards, was where you were saying, you're writing a program for someone and you put another assistance exercise or supplemental exercise in because, oh, well, sure, there was an empty cell in the Excel file, but there's no real solid rationale for it. And you don't have a strong basis for keeping it in the program. So it's like, why is it even there? It's like, do they need to do those 3 sets of RDLs or fucking rows or whatever it may be? But like, if the rationale isn't there for it, why is it there?
Yeah, because like I think one of the biggest things that's going to like drive how effective a training program is going to be the intent put into it. You could have someone follow, you could have 2 people follow the exact same training program, and like, one person puts loads of intent into it, they might do perfectly fine, and someone else just goes through the motions, follows the same program, and doesn't get anywhere near as far as the first person. And the more work you put in, the more chance you have of reducing the intent that someone can follow it with. Obviously, people have to do enough work and a lot of hard work to get to that point. But if you're just like blanketly prescribing like, fucking tricep work because it's good for your bench press, and back work's gone done good for your deadlift, but there's no intent behind it, like it mightn't see the results that you want to at all.
Yeah. And the other thing with regards to rationale behind what you have in your program, and this is kind of getting out what you were talking about, Jack, I think, now if it's not, correct me, but I remember before when I was working with Eric Helms, and we used to kind of build the program together, if you like. So I would give my input on things as well. And at one point I said to him, if we're going with this frequency of bench pressing, I would like one of those days to be a board press day. And the reason being is at the time I had a little bit of a niggle with my shoulder, and training through that range was absolutely not bothersome whatsoever. So that was one reason for it. And the other one being it allowed me to handle heavier loads. And even though his counter argument was, well, it's not training you through the range of motion where we think you're weakest. But the counter argument being, well, if I can train this suboptimal exercise but do it harder and it's not bothering my shoulder, I think overall that's a better reasoning for having that exercise in there. So is that kind of getting at what you were saying?
Yeah, to a degree, like, as in, it's like it's going to be down to each coach as far as like what they deem is sufficient rationale for the decisions. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no objective judge here that's going to tell you it's like you're a fucking mong, like you didn't, like it's not specific enough. Do you know? Yeah, like if like the criteria is like, okay, if you can train that, you think it'll if you think it'll help drive progress or allow you to get in more volume that'll help drive progress in turn, then it's worthwhile. Like, and if you think that's worthwhile, it's worthwhile, like, and even like it's just interesting you saying that, like you, the lifter, asking for that and doing that, you're going to probably have more buy-in. You're probably going to have more buy-in because it's your idea as well for doing that, like, whereas how, like, if someone like didn't like board press, then it probably wouldn't have the same effect. I think if that's what the question was. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I suppose I just wanted to give an example whereby like it doesn't have to be as like rationale doesn't have to be okay, you have a chest fall pattern, so we're going to select this exercise. And if it deviates from that, well, then it can't be in there. As long as there's some strong reasoning behind why it's there, and it can be a very practical thing of like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
when they do this
Yeah,
exercise, they're not in pain and they can train it harder. That's a solid rationale. But like, as long as there's some kind of thinking behind why it's in there, as opposed to just plugging it in because, you know, that's what we always do, or that's what we did with someone else, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like, especially in that case, if, you know, if it gets you to a workload that you feel like that your bench progresses with, do you know what I mean? Like, it's in, if your shoulder injury was, you know, causing you to have to reduce workload significantly, and then you can't progress that way, well, then you're kind of fucked. Where so like if it allows you just to keep workload up a little bit and like into a range where you can progress, then A plus, it seems worthwhile to me anyway. Like, but yeah, like that rationale doesn't need to be necessarily 1-to-1. It, you know, it is you know.
Yeah, it like yeah, something like that. And that would be like you said that there's no objective judge here and telling you that something's right or wrong. And I think you tend to see that a lot with people dissecting training they see from other people or from like certain people. They'll take something out of context and go, "This is stupid. This doesn't work." When it's like the context behind that is probably going to be the overriding thing. Like if you have a coach that like continually gets results with you and with other people that you trust, what they do and the like way in which they execute it, like the context behind that is the most important thing, because you could take something out of it in isolation and go, this makes no sense, but in the context of what they do, if it's seeing results, it does. Because like I think as a coach, like as coaches, there's probably a big trend which cracks me up because it's mainly from people who don't have like fucking degrees, out of people who are evidence based. You have so many evidence based people who can't fucking read evidence, right? And as a coach, like I don't think it matters too much what the actual evidence is. Like you're like we should be in a results based business. You're trying to get results for someone. So just because something doesn't make sense in isolation, or something is commonly refuted, if it makes sense and is seeing progress as part of a training program or a training system, that's enough rationale behind it for me in most cases, you know.
Yeah, for sure. That's being evidence-based and like just applying logic to the situation, you know, and that's good individualization, like you were talking about earlier on, individualization versus like fucking randomization. I mean, that's a good way to individualize your programming, is to take the individual context of the lifter and their situation and, you know, their temperament and things like that into account.
I can't remember who phrased it before though. It was interesting. It's like, so the big, for a long while, everyone had this big kind of like bands and chains and stuff got really, really out of fashion for a while. Because for raw lifters in particular, I think it was kind of like Chad Wesley Smith was a big kind of driving force there in the raw lifting. It's like that they should train entirely different to grip lifting. But then, so the pendulum swung to, instead of everyone using it for raw lifting, no one was using it for raw lifting, and it was deemed as stupid. Whereas, so like, if you were in that camp of saying like, okay, evidence says that like, oh, you know, strength curve is different, you know, bands and chains are, you know, a stupid idea, then you'd throw those out always, even if a lifter told you explicitly that bands and chains work for them. You know, if they have evidence saying, you know, this directly works for me, I've gotten progress from banded deadlifts. If you were to go with your, you know, the evidence of the strength curves being different, you throw out the direct evidence they're giving you, like the first-hand information they're giving you about their training.
And that N=1 evidence is really is a really poor way of backing up like a general argument, but N=1 evidence in relation to your lifter is the most valuable information you'll ever get. what actually works for them is the most important thing that you have.
Right, and like that ties back in with the point you made earlier on about buy-in, where it's like, okay, well, if they're giving me this information about this exercise that maybe on paper we might say that might not be the best way of doing things, but they like it, they're convinced it works, and you know they're going to work hard on it, well then that's probably merit to not throw it out entirely, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that you definitely, well, not definitely, you more than likely don't design a program just based around what someone finds fun. That mightn't be the best way of seeing progress with someone, but disregarding their what they have seen and found to be effective training, just it throws away so many potential tools for progress, which is at the end of the day the only thing you're looking for. I forget who said it. Fucking forget everything. But like a way I heard a phrase is not all all models are incorrect, but some models are effective.
Yeah.
I think that was Oprah.
No, that's I think so. Yeah.
All models are wrong, but some are useful, something like that.
Yeah. There we go.
Could have been Hugh.
Like, probably was like probably was, but like
Similar.
but you know, like fucking what you find that's effective like in the context of a training program is going to be the most important thing to see continued progress and continue driving training, rather than what you feel or what the general consensus is on an effective training program.
Yeah. So to take you back to the other thing that you said earlier on, Stephen, that I thought was quite interesting and noteworthy was, so this age of social media, new and up and coming coaches maybe they feel a need to portray themselves as someone who has it all figured out and knows exactly what's going on. And when you meet some of the guys at the top of the coaching food chain, if you like, and you meet them for the first time and you chat to them about coaching, it's very interesting, I find, to when you're talking to them, you notice how kind of unassuming they are and how sort of open they are to the possibility of different things, and to the effect of like, try it, if it works, keep it in, if it doesn't, take it out. That's basically the you know, a very crude oversimplification of it, but it's along those lines. Like someone like Mike Tuchscherer, who's very open to the possibility of trying different things, and he seems to be experimenting with something new basically every month, you know. So it's interesting when you consider that they're the guys that are considered the leaders in the field. For a younger coach, you know, that should be at least enough reassurance to kind of say, look, you don't need to portray yourself as someone who has it all figured out.
Yeah, and I mean, a large part of that tends to come from like sort of naivety and like almost like people are trying to market themselves, and the market's so oversaturated. So people want to feel like, right, if I talk assertively enough and I sound convincing enough, like people will, like, you know, I am therefore smart enough. And it's like, you know, yeah, but people tend to follow results. Like what you say as the coach isn't really going to sell anything. Like, I doubt anyone's fucking listening to this podcast right now and going, Stephen, he's got his shit figured out, I'm going to email him. Where people go to you for coaching is when they see your lifters' performances, when they see how your people are doing. Like, people will go to someone's coach. They don't know who the coach is. They don't care who the coach is. They just know that they made this person really strong. That's why they go to you most of the time. Unless you're continually producing really good content, and you know that's the avenue you're going down. If you're purely a coach, they're going to you because they see your results, and it takes time to build that. I think a lot of people are in a rush. In other sports, like, you don't just go straight into coaching. You would be an assistant coach. You would shadow someone. You would do experience. You'd work at different levels before you ever became an actual coach. You know, you'd get a lot of experience in the field because you can get your qualifications, you can do whatever you want, but you need in the field experience before you start doing something. But because there isn't really any barrier of entry to powerlifting coaching, people tend to sort of hop into it straight away. And there isn't necessarily like, there isn't anything against that, but you'd probably be a much more refined coach, or you'd probably be able to give a lot more to your clients if you had taken the time to learn a bit sort of in the field first. Like I think I'd sort of done like inside City Gym, we basically all did like a pretty extensive period of like work experience there before we ever became a coach. Like I think I sort of shadowed you and Gar for bones of 6 to 8 months before I ever sort of took on a client. I was helping out in classes. I was watching what you do in the office every day. I was sort of spending a lot of time there learning. Jack did the same. Alex is doing the same now. Jack Kenny did the same. It's sort of and then you sort of tend to produce coaches who have that bit of experience going into it. You don't have to make those same mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. Like just on your point, Art, as well. Like the Instagram and like coaches, how they portray themselves. There's a huge mixture there of, as Steve said, like trying to speak with like some level of like conviction behind what they say. Like they have a huge belief in their system, which can kind of come across as sounding very absolute and in their beliefs. But then there's also your more established coaches that are way further down the line on the basically the Dunning-Kruger effect. So the graph of confidence against actual knowledge. When people start out, they know very little, but they think they know a lot, and then they're very confident in what they know. And then as they learn more, they're more aware of their downfalls and the breadth of the actual information. And I think that happens like a lot in powerlifting. Like people coaching, they get their first few clients, and then they made them progress their class. But then after a while, they get to realize, okay, I've had more complicated clients. There's a lot more to this. They get into the meet they're handling. The first meet they have, they go 9 for 9 with a client. They go 9 for 9 with a client that's not in direct competition with anyone. Then they do more competitions, and they realize, oh, there's a lot more nuance to this. There's a whole myriad of rules I need to learn. I need to know like body weights, what relevance body weights, lot numbers, and records have on attempt selection. All these things are really important for meet day in direct competition.
I remember being there as well. Like we all were there because
for sure, everyone does.
You start coaching and your first few people see progress, and I don't think people don't realize as well when they start, because everyone thinks they have the secret to strength training or they have the secret to progress. There isn't one. Most training systems that won't hurt someone will make someone progress. It might cap out at some stage, but it will make someone progress. So when you take on a new person, they're going to progress, as long as you have some semblance of an idea of what you're doing. So you see someone progress on your training system, you go, everyone else is an idiot. They don't train like I do. God, I have everything figured out. I am the man. And then,
it's high bar squats.
It's high bar tempo squats. Obviously, people are idiots. But that is the secret. Then your first person gets knee pain and leaves, or you go to a meet and you think you're shit hot, your team comes 8 overall and you lose every battle you're in for placings, and then all of a sudden that confidence starts to come down slowly. Just having a bit of awareness of that before you go into it, and spending a bit of time maybe behind the scenes before you dive in head first, can definitely help mitigate that. Because you see a lot of
I'll say, just especially with the meet day stuff, because on meet day stuff, a lot of the stuff is so subtle that you could lose a battle and not even know that you lost the battle that you could have won. It's just one of those things of someone changed, someone sneaky like Jay changed an attempt, changed someone's opening deadlift, you know.
Change the weight class.
Huh? Yeah, changing weight classes. Yeah, just told everyone to change the weight class. Asking Barry what weight class he can get into. What weight class he thinks he can get into.
Or a club.
Yeah. But yeah, like those kind of things. Like if someone is at the start of their career, they won't even notice that happened. It'd be like basically taking candy from a baby. Whereas how the more the person knows, like they mightn't be able to change the situation, they might still lose, but at least they'll be aware of it.
Yeah, you know you suck.
Yeah. But, knowing you lost.
But it's you know that sort of experience sort of just comes with time as well. And I think you see a lot of people get discouraged as well, because, you know, just with the oversaturation, it can be quite hard to get into it and to stay in it. And momentum shifts very quickly between different people depending on how you're doing. And like you see a lot of people sort of come to meets and if things don't go well, you tend not to see those teams or those clubs coming back, which can be a shame, because you'd love to see like the prominence of powerlifting and the amount of people continuing to grow consistently. You know, it rises everyone, but a lot of people just don't seem prepared to put in that sort of practical learning and see what's going on around them, you know, which is really important.
Yeah. And well, actually, just on that, just as I thought of it, there was one example that kind of I thought was interesting, was actually David Wilson recently, where he was talking about basically the effect of, like, I had one meet where I missed a load of lifts, did really shit, and then I came back after that. I had the best meet of my life. Then I went to IPF Worlds, and now I've been struggling for motivation kind of since. I might have a couple of bits of that slightly off, but it was to that effect, and like how he took, you know, a really poor meet performance and used that to turn that into like his best meet performance. And then having had that really good meet, it was like it's harder to learn from when you do well as opposed to when you fuck up.
Yeah, sure. And I think something that comes into that as well is, as you're talking about, like, that sort of situation, people tend to oversimplify what powerlifting is as well. They go, it's just lifting weights. It's the same as going to the gym. But Dave Wilson traveled the whole way to Sweden. It was his first time going to an international comp, competed against the best of the best, you know, with all those travel factors coming in and a completely different environment. You know, it's different. And I don't think people realize when you, like, you know, the difference between doing a regional comp and doing a national level comp, the pace of it's entirely different. Once you get to an international comp, it's entirely different again. And you sort of learn a lot of that on the job. You know, both as a lifter and a coach, you continue to learn those things on the job, because there isn't a whole pile of ways preparing for that otherwise. Like those mistakes you make, you have to definitely be critical with them, which is actually something that I meant to bring up at the start when we talk about advice for newer coaches, but forgot. Is actually that of, like, after every meet I've done, like, as a coach, I do a breakdown for myself of what I could have done better. When I started coaching, whoever I was helping, I'd ask them what I could improve on. You know, if I was at an international comp with Jay after a session, I'd ask him what could I have done better that time. You know, whether it was be more accurate with my timings, which was something that I struggled with a lot at the start, was just the timing of warm-ups. I struggled with getting that right. That took a lot of effort to sort of get down to the level that you need to over there at internationals. You know, just learning those different things. You'll see other teams and other clubs doing things that you didn't think of, you know, and taking those away and thinking critically afterwards about the things you've done wrong, rather than congratulating yourself when things go right. Those help.
Would you find that hard? Like, maybe you were talking about how other coaches might give you what you're looking for there, but say if you had a lifter, like, I feel like it'd be hard for them to say where you went wrong, as opposed to, like, you know, you ask a client, you know, what could I have done better there? I just feel like the natural inclination would be for them to kind of go, oh no, look, don't worry about it. You did great. Couldn't have asked for more. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Um,
hard for them to give good constructive criticism.
yeah. Yeah. Like after every meet, I tend to have like a video call with my lifters just to discuss how that meet went. And yeah, a lifter isn't gonna, if you fuck up, your lifter isn't gonna turn around most of the time and go, you did this wrong, you suck, this is a disgrace. That's not gonna happen. But you'll know
most of the time.
yourself. And when you talk to a lifter, and yeah, most of the time, but when you talk to your lifters, and you see what went wrong in a meet, um, you sort of brainstorm, right, what went wrong, like if the warm-ups were rushed, why were they rushed? That was probably the coach. You either didn't get your lifter out of the crowd on time, you didn't go through them well enough. You tend to have to break that down yourself and be critical and be hard on yourself in those situations. Most things that will go wrong will be down to, even if it's not 100% your fault, it's probably something you could have improved on, or you could hope to avoid the next time by knowing more. So yeah, just having a conversation with them and finding out things that went wrong in general, or the things that could have went better, and then from there you'll just know what to work on, because it's all just feedback. If it's something that went wrong, if someone squatted high on the day of the meet, you probably need to get more honest at calling their depth in training. If someone, like all those technical things that show up, you just didn't do a good enough job with them in the training block, for whatever reason, whether you didn't want to, whether you didn't identify it, whether they were lacking communication, so you need to up your contact with them, whatever it is. You figure it out, and then you'll just see what you can work on after each situation.
Cool.
We tend to do it as a group in City Gym as well, like after most meets, because we'll all just be hanging out. Like you just get to talk about what went well and what didn't go well, what fucking normal fiascos we have with a fucking team inside, and just figure out what we can improve on for the next one.
Yeah, and I think why we're, I know, like amongst many reasons why we're lucky in City Gym is that we have this network of coaches as well. So, like we were discussing earlier on about the Dunning-Kruger effect, where your actual knowledge and your confidence may not necessarily line up depending on where you are on that curve. But like, I wouldn't have a moment's hesitation about asking one of you guys a coaching related question. And it's the same with you. And we're lucky that we have that, where we're able to kind of bounce ideas off each other. And, we might have a strategy that we're kind of wrestling with in our head, and we'll say, we give the context or whatever and say, here, what would you think about this? And you give your input and I'll find out how I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And we're lucky to have that.
Like, 100%.
Yeah, it is hugely valuable. Like even if you can talk to someone that isn't even necessarily a coach, just someone who's also interested, just having that dialogue to be able to bounce ideas back and forth, to like have someone to basically bounce the ideas back off you to see if you're crazy or not. Like, like if something you're thinking of is just convoluted for the sake of it, that is somewhat valuable.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, it's really useful. Like being lucky enough to have that professional network with people who work closely enough to you, and who work within the same companies, that we have a lot of understanding of what we're all doing, and having those people to bounce ideas off of is really useful.
Yeah, and I suppose like some people might perceive that as like, oh, you don't have this figured out, you should. And like to that, I'd sort of say, well, like none of us have all the answers here. These are all these decisions we're making around coaching. They're all guesses. Now we try to make them as informed and educated as we can, but ultimately they are guesses. So it's good to get the opinion of a peer, give them the situation that you're dealing with, and have them try to cast another set of eyes over it, or a bit of objectivity over it, because they're not directly involved with the lifter that you're that you're talking about. And yeah, and I think that that dialogue can be really helpful.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you have something to add there, Stephen?
No, that's a very nice way after the point.
Cool. So I think at this stage we can sort of start to wrap things up here. Lads, if any listeners have, hopefully they're still listening and they've enjoyed this podcast, and they want to find out more about you guys, maybe inquire about coaching, that kind of thing, follow your lifting, those sorts of things, where would be the best places to find you and contact you?
For me, it would be either DM me on Instagram. If you just want to talk about coaching, if you want to talk about even ideas you have, like I'm all for, like that's what we're talking about earlier in the podcast. Like reach out to other coaches and like just have conversations. I'm all for that. If anyone wants to talk about all that kind of stuff, just DM me on Instagram at Jack PJ Thornton, or email me at jack@citygymlk.com. Either or, I'm pretty active on. I have Instagram out pretty much throughout this isolation, so I have time.
The easiest place to catch me is at my email, which is stephen@citygymlk.com. It's Stephen with a PH. Anyone who knows me or works with me knows I am not active on social media at all. But if you want to brave it, DM me at Ben_Ching_. But I probably won't get back to you, so just email me.
And sorry, did you give your email there?
Yeah, Stephen@citygymlk.com.
Perfect. Cool. Lads, this has been really fun and really, really insightful. Thank you both for giving up your time to chat to me.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Yeah, thank you, Ed.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.